Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Principality of Monaco, where we continue round 8 of the Formula One World Championship, and it's a special trip to one of our most iconic venues. The 2 miles of Monaco, the test for the 20 drivers in the field. This is the second hour of practice. And in front of the cityscape, corners with memories everywhere you look. 3.3 kilometres, 2 miles, just over. Top speed doesn't really match everywhere else, but the challenge with the walls high and close and Armco everywhere is very, very intense. 78 laps on Grand Prix Sunday, a thrill unlike anything that we bring you when it comes to qualifying Saturday. But this is the last action of practice Friday on the C6, C5 and C4 tyres. They're the softest in the Pirelli range, and that's what's available to the drivers in the field. As we take you to wonderful heli shot of the Mediterranean Sea and the challenge for the drivers that winds its way across. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Shakes. Alongside me once again is Jolyon Palmer, who raced on these streets a couple of times in Formula One. And the challenge earlier on, JP, was that the cars were at the limit absolutely immediately.
Yeah, they don't have a huge amount of headroom with which to move into. There was a lot of action earlier on. There were a few very near misses of the barriers, some clips of the barriers even. So, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for everyone to keep finding the progress without finding the barriers in too big a way.
Crowd have made their way in. You're looking just beyond to back corner towards the swimming pool, where the largest grandstands find themselves around this circuit. Plenty here supporting Charles Leclerc. And Charles Leclerc was the fastest driver earlier on. He topped the session, even though he wasn't particularly happy with what he found underneath him. So he's given the instruction to the team to find some more performance, but he did have that incident, didn't he, when he was into the back of Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll given that one-place grid penalty as we look at the Red Bull floater home in the middle of the harbour, as we've become used to in recent times.
Ever impressive, though, isn't it? And ever booming out the music on a practice Friday. Red Bull in party mode for this weekend. Yeah, Stroll got the one-place grid penalty. Now, it's hard to argue it was anything other than entirely Aston Martin and Stroll's fault for the collision. I haven't seen too many. I can't remember too many incidents where something that happened in practice that wasn't a sort of red flag infringement or a yellow flag infringement that was resulting on a grid penalty. So for Aston Martin, it's a tough one. Obviously, he did technically cause the collision. It was a miscommunication or a non-communication. Lance just didn't hear the call that Leclerc was coming up behind, so he can't see in the mirrors. Charles couldn't see the driver in front because of the Armco jutting out. It's an accident all round, and one that Stroll pays the price for with an immediate grid drop for qualifying tomorrow. So we know overtaking is nigh on impossible around this circuit. There is a second pit stop. Aston Martin are already down a position from wherever they'd qualify.
Championship leader Oscar Piastri with the 5th fastest time earlier on, but he has the most points in the World Championship with 146. Then Lando Norris on 133. Max Verstappen 22 back, as our top 3 drivers in the world put on a show this year. Max Verstappen, the most recent race winner.
I enjoyed this morning's practice a lot, actually, just to see the drivers pushing hard. But also, we had 4 different teams once again in the top 4. We had 5 different teams in the top 6, 6 different teams in the top 8, and 7 in the top 10. So it was very, very jumbled across the teams. This is your fastest man from earlier on. Wasn't happy with the car, as you said. Did have the big smack into the back of Lance. Genuinely, it cannot have slowed him down. He was quickest for most of the session and looked really good. Do you remember in China when he had the nudge with Lewis at the start of the race and damaged his front wing, and then proceeded to have a really strong race pace?
Yeah.
It possibly reminded me of that, where there's damage to the Ferrari, yet the driver's doing a really good job. He was 7/10 quicker than Hamilton, and even though he was not happy with the balance, he was very quick earlier on.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc always fast around his home race since he joined Ferrari. The winner, of course, last year. He'd never previously finished on the podium, and he is chasing his 4th pole position around the Principality this weekend. The driver who was fastest in the first hour of practice, welcome to the second. It's not easy, is it, for Hulkenberg to rotate that Sauber into the fast lane of the pit lane?
Wasn't sure if he was just about to brush the wall there. in the pit lane. We know they're all brushing the walls out on circuit, but you don't want to be doing it just leaving the garage. It's so tight. It's full lock just to try and get away without having to do the three-point turn. No one wants to be doing that in the pit lane. Waste time. It doesn't look cool either. Take it to the track. So Hulkenberg got away with it. Verstappen now lining up, ready to go.
Just a quick question from my side. This helmet and visor, is this the same as what I use in FP1?
Yeah, yes it is, Max.
So the world champion inquiring on the radio to whether his visor and helmet is the same setup, maybe a slightly different feeling, and he just wanted to confirm it. Local time, we are at 1 minute past 5 local time, so the sun's slightly lower in the sky, and that will change things. Shadows ever longer as we see the slow meandering out of the pit lane of the two McLarens, top two drivers in the World Championship coming into this race, but they cannot shake off Max Verstappen, who is the sole contender for Red Bull.
And already...
Just a quick question from my side. This helmet and visor, is this the same as what I use in FP1?
Yeah, yes it is, Max.
Looking down into the Haas garage, and you will hear Brennan O'Hare's voice, the race engineer, to Oliver Behrman. Behrman looking to try and use the low-speed nature of this circuit to avoid what we saw at the last race, where Haas were not competitive. And Behrman, so far in his first full season, 3 times a point scorer, but not for the last 3 races. Lewis Hamilton immediately pushing on. A 3-time Monaco Grand Prix winner, and he's immediately caught the traffic. Lots of moments of brinkmanship, lots of near misses basically earlier on in FP1, and Hamilton clears the Haas, but was definitely held up there, and the one DRS zone is down the main straight. Hamilton out there early on, the yellow walled medium tyre jumps across Saint-Devote. There used to be a Armco barrier that meant that you couldn't do that, but that was a change made in 2003. There's always minor alterations being made to this circuit. It's got the same rough layout as the original. Raskas meant that the old hairpin that closed the lap had to be widened into a 2-part corner. Alex Brundle was talking us around the Nouvelle chicane that's actually all the way back in its introduction from a quick flick to slightly longer in terms of the 3-part corner in 1986, and this is a wonderful shot. It gives you an idea of how much the circuit snakes around on itself as we get to Portier corner, made famous by Ayrton Senna in a league of his own, driving to the win and clipping the wall. He had one hand on the trophy in 1988, and he walked straight back to his apartment, didn't speak to anyone, didn't go back for the debrief. All part of the Monaco folklore through the years.
It's still iconic, isn't it? The Monaco Grand Prix, and seeing Formula One cars giving it everything around these tight streets. Just the iconic images around the hotel, Portier through the tunnel, flashing into the chicane, to back in the swimming pool. I mean, they're big names. They've seen huge moments of history in the past. I still find it an absolute pleasure to be here and watch Formula One cars at full tilt. Practice day and then into qualifying day, which I'm expecting still to be the crucial one, even though we've got this mandated 2-stop race that might jumble the order slightly for Sunday.
Max Verstappen out there on the medium tyre as well. This is to back corner, the left-hander. And then into both parts of the swimming pool, brushing the curb. Earlier on he had to take avoiding action to avoid a Sauber at that part of the circuit. This is officially the 19th and final corner, and he's going to complete the full 2 miles about there, and over the line he goes to go top of the pile of the cars that have set early times on the mediums.
Found a bit of pace at the end of practice earlier on, Verstappen, and he's kicked off in good vein as well. Medium tyres for most of the field at this point. Charles Leclerc out there on a hard, as is Nico Hulkenberg. They'll try and long run that for some data later on, which could still be incredibly important. And then we'll, I'm sure, see everyone on the soft. But the soft is actually very similar to the medium. It's the same story as we had in Imola last weekend. And in fact, the feedback from FP1 was that there still wasn't a huge gain being on that soft.
Please fix your fifth, same problem.
Okay, understood.
We're climbing the hill all the way to Massenet Corner, and Alex Brundle, who's watching trackside.
A great bit of racetrack to be watching. 250 kilometers per hour over the top of the hill for Massenet. We see Antonelli go in. They bleed that all the way down to 150 kilometers per hour when they make what is an eventual.
Please fix your fifth, same problem.
Okay, understood.
Regards to the lines on the road, I'm hearing there's something going on track, guys.
We'll be back to you in a moment, Alex. Isaac Hadjar clipping the wall on the way through the Nouvelle chicane, puncturing the tyre and bringing out the red flag.
Threatened to, well, he clipped the wall, didn't he, earlier on, and threatened to actually have a bigger moment. He's stopped the car on the circuit now. He's taken the tyre off the rim on the rear. There's the bite out of the wall on the left-hand side on the way into the chicane. And that's what he did earlier on as well. Got too close to the apex, too greedy. He's ever emotive in the cockpit. Cannot believe what's happened.
Should I try to bring it?
Yes, yes.
And I think they would have reversed that call. So he's now been told to move. So he's let everyone go, has he? He's been given the instruction by the team that he can try and bring it back. He's going to have to crawl back here, though, because if they spray debris all over the circuit, race control will take a very dim view of that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like...
Should I try to bring it?
Yes, yes.
We'll wait and see for a replay and see how much damage there might be on this car. If we go on board, and he's basically going to turn in for too much left-hand apex here.
Nicked it and the damage done immediately.
So I don't know if that's going to be too horrendous a damage. He was massively remonstrating in the car. There's the snag, and then the tyre's just gone pop as he's hit the rim. This is going to be a jump for these guys.
Wakey, wakey.
That's not a jump even, is it?
They're too cool for school down there, those marshals. They're used to the cars being close. Isaac Hadjar too close and running the Ayrton Senna tribute livery and applying the power. Spectacular pictures. Parked up, let everyone go through and very, very slowly coaxing it back to the pit lane.
Various carbon fibre bits were flying off there as well, so that's going to be around the rear end bodywork that's deposited itself, where that tyre has then flipped to the inside and started flailing around. He has obviously made it back then. I'd be surprised if there's significant suspension damage there. I don't think that was a massive whack. It's just the where he's caught it, he's just gone straight clean onto the tyre with enough force that it's just popped off.
Let's go down to the pit lane and get an update from Ruth Busker.
Thank you, Jake. So yes, we've just seen both racing balls, including the one of Isaac Hadjar, come back, and actually, just as Jolien said, it doesn't look, from the first look, like there was much damage other than obviously that tyre. Looking at it as it came in, it looked like the floor itself at the back was intact. Now, the engineers, if you see on that first floor there, were looking at the screen the whole time, checking to see if there's any additional information that we can't see by just looking at it. And once again, we see the engineers kind of putting their heads out to actually have a look at the car as it comes straight in. Heath, if we move along, we'll actually be able to see if they are fervently working on the back. A good sign for Isaac Hadjar is there's about an even spread of mechanics on both sides of the garage, which means it probably isn't too much of an issue. Otherwise, you probably start to see people move over to that car. We'll have to wait and see. They've got more data than we do. But it's a good view right now in the pit lane.
Thank you, Ruth. The most important thing for Isaac Hadjar is that that is not session over. As a rookie driver experiencing Formula One Monaco for the first time, and he was very, very handy here in Formula 2. He needs all the track time he can get. We have a neutralised session at the moment after that red flag, thanks to Hadjar momentarily stopping on the circuit. Sam Collins has an update for us.
Yeah, I think Hadjar actually did something very clever right there. He brought the car to a complete stop until the red flag came out. A new rule was, well, a clarification of the existing rules came out at the beginning of this season after Sergio Perez crashed his Red Bull in Canada last year and drove it back to the pits, shedding various parts around the circuit. Drivers have been told not to drive back to the pits in a damaged car. That was considered driving the car in an unsafe condition and gets a penalty. But Hadjar sat with the car until the red flag came out, the track was neutralised, and then drove back to the pits. And I think that was a pretty smart thing to do.
Thank you, Sam. Let's have another look from the heli. It was only a minor brush, but enough to take the car into the barrier, damage the tyre. Wait for it. Here we go. Trying to pinch as much as possible on the apex, and the damage clear immediately.
Be very surprised if that's not quite a quick turnaround for Racing Bulls, actually. Here we go. This is the shot. Front misses it, but the rear's wider, and there's the wipe. Floor looks...
It looks all right.
Looks fine. Looks absolutely fine. I think that'll be quite a quick turnaround, and he'll be back out. There were certainly little flicks of carbon fibre that came off the back, so it might not be perfect, but yeah, I think it'll be okay.
Let's go back to the pit lane. Ruth is standing by, looking at a very, very busy queue at the red light.
Yep, a very, very busy queue indeed. Heath's got his focus all the way up there, and you can see they're roughly in reverse championship order. Why is that? Because you have right away. Now, Heath, if we twist around and look at the back end of this queue, we've got the Williams that was slightly slower that was been sent out. But looking all the way down, you see every single car is in the queue. Very interesting to see the differences between the drivers and how they're waiting. Lando, visor down. Oscar, visor up. It's very much driver preference, and these queues are really rather annoying, and we suddenly have a green light. We'll start to see the drivers, Heath, if you go around the other way, you'll see them slowly pull away and onto the racetrack, but it will take about 1 to 2 minutes for this queue to clear. Bear that in mind. The engineers are going to be calculating this. It's very good data for qualifying in just how long it takes for all of these cars to clear.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Got a couple of cameras down there in the pit lane. That's Ruth Buskin's perspective at a very, very expensive traffic jam that we've got as we wait to see. A really useful point from Ruth there about the teams calculating how long this queue needs to clear, because Charles Leclerc will tell you, if you get your run plan wrong in Q1, you can have a rapid race car. If you don't get the chance to prove it, it can undo your weekend. He found that in his first trip to the Principality with Ferrari, where he was driving angry in that race, trying to undo the damage, trying to pass people in the corner just to the left-hand side of us, the Raskas.
I think there was definitely something wrong with those steer-offs. Like, the quality of that was really bad.
Copy that. We'll sort it overnight.
So that's back to Max Verstappen discussing whether there was an alteration to his helmet, and saying there was an issue there with the tear-offs, wasn't getting maybe the same vision that he had beforehand, wasn't happy either way.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. I mean, tear-offs were fairly spec, to be honest. I'd be surprised if maybe there's different ones that he uses, but yeah, in my experience, they were just very...
I think there was definitely something wrong with those steer-offs. Like, the quality of that was really bad.
Copy that. We'll sort it overnight.
For Sainz, if you run wide, generally through Massenet, entry mid-corner, the way that the natural camber there is you just get drawn to the barriers on the outside. You have to sort of turn in fairly early and then hug a long apex. And Sainz was getting pretty squirrely towards the exit there. I think he's backed right out of that lap. Pushing on. Still working on the back of Hadjar's car, but the driver is still in the cockpit, and I think
having a look, making some alterations, and for Isaac Hadjar's sake, you would hope that they will be able to get him some more time as he tries to find the limit around here in Formula One.
He's incredibly emotional, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is. It's that I do like a driver who wears their heart on their sleeve, but the one thing, he was asked about this a couple of weeks ago, and in F3 and F2, where he was a title contender in both championships, didn't come away with the largest trophy, but title contender in both championships. He said, have you dialed it back? Are you as intense as you used to be in the junior championships? He's like, oh yeah, I'm still shouting, I'm just not pressing the team radio button. And we could see him.
That was that, yeah.
He was bobbing around in the cockpit, absolutely furious with what he'd done, and it wasn't even a session ender.
Well, he was in Imola, wasn't he? He made a mistake in Tamburello on his qualifying lap and was just banging the steering wheel through the next few corners in frustration that cost him, it might have cost him a couple of places on the grid. You know, they aren't frustrating those mistakes and a bit costly. And it goes all the way back to Melbourne, of course, where he didn't take the start. And we know the how heavy he felt that on his what should have been his first race. Super quick in the car, but when things don't go right, you know that he's not happy with it.
Let's send it back to Alex Brundle. Alex, where were we?
I've wandered a little bit round the racetrack to the apex of Casino Square. I just want you to see a couple of things with this one as a few cars are coming through on slower laps. The first flying lap of the session just played out. RB though scampering over the top of the hill here. I just wanted to give you a feel for how banked it is right on this apex when you can see across the road here. Look how much lower we are down on the apex of Casino Square than the crowd are up there. Then there is a huge amount of undulation through the exit. That's why you see so much movement. Leclerc just comes through here with so much commitment. That was the Ferrari that you just saw make the apex. With regards to the different cars on that first flying lap, of course, Verstappen, who's just come through again on a set of medium tyres, looking really, really committed. But both Williams changed direction so nicely in here. They've actually even got a little bit too much front end and kind of have a bit of movement over the top of the hill through the exit of the Casino Square right-hander. The Ferrari looking a little bit more benign. Both McLaren have quite a nasty reaction over the top of the hill as they try and get the power back on. Antonelli building himself into the session here in the Mercedes. What I was trying to say before I cursed Isaac Hadjar by saying the rookies were staying a long way from the wall just before he managed to find the wall, was that Antonelli is giving the wall a decently wide berth on the way into Massenet, and he's also doing so both on the apex of Casino Square and also through the exit, building into their session. Looks like we've got Oscar Piastri off now, guys.
Oscar Piastri into the barriers at Saint-Devote, and so many drivers went deep there and bailed out earlier on. He will leave the corner and he'll leave his front wing with it. The championship leader into the wall at Saint-Devote, the man chasing his first win in the Principality this weekend, finished second last year, and he's lucky that it's only the front wing that's gone.
Lucky boy. Wow. It's not often you have that level of impact with the barriers at Saint-Devote. You said earlier on which is the one that you need to survive and where can you attack. Saint-Devote is one that just invites you to miss the breaking point.
Oscar, are you okay?
Yes.
Bring the car back very carefully.
Yeah, copy.
The fact that he can even bring this back is a huge reprieve for Piastri. Let's see. So he's trying to open the lap then. Difficult braking zone, moving towards the right. Bang. But perfectly square to the barrier, which means it will just be the front wing. He's not done damage to the suspension. I think he'll get away with that. He can come back in.
that you get from IKEA. It's a really quick screw, so it's a good sign that that's been able to go on and they're able to jack the car up. Oscar in the car. Like I say, it all comes down to absolute millimetres here. You have to actually dance on the edge of knocking any kind of window in order to be able to there. This morning in FP1, the McLarens were not taking as much risk as their competitors. They have to catch up. They have to follow the progress. They'll have been informed by how close to the wall the Ferraris have been, the Red Bulls have been, and they were trying to match that. And that is what happens when you take risk. There is also reward, but sometimes it costs you a front wing.
Thank you, Ruth. 37 minutes to go, 2 red flags, both cars able to escape. And Charles Leclerc, who's the quickest driver, as he was earlier on, and studying the data. That's the McLaren front wing, recovered by the marshals at Saint-Devote.
Make a lovely souvenir. Almost completely intact still, that front wing, just detached from the main car itself. It came cleanly off. It's been recovered. Marshall will keep their beady eyes on that for the remainder of the hour.
Mate, unbelievable, these guys, so dangerous. I know it's only practice, but for me that's just unacceptable. That kind of impeding, it's so dangerous in that swimming pool.
It was Gabriel Bortoletto that Max tripped over at the second part of the swimming pool earlier on, and it was Gabriel Bortoletto there that is on the receiving end of Max's wrath again. It's not a great place to be at a reduced speed and sitting on the racing line, although there's not a lot of alternative to get off the racing line there either. You have to really get off it.
So we're queued up once again, and we're going to get a resumption of the session. Will be in a couple of moments' time. 17:20. Two Italians have ever won the Monaco Grand Prix in the championship era. Jolyon Palmer, can you name one of the two Italians to win the Monaco Grand Prix in the championship era, started in 1950?
I think Riccardo Patrese won the Monaco Grand Prix.
He's got one. Could he get the second? We were talking about this in the production office yesterday.
The second Italian to have won the Monaco Grand Prix, Jarno Trulli.
Yes, ding, 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 ding. Jolyon Palmer's got the knowledge. And I can tell you, all done honestly, not looking at any notes off the top of his head. Kimi Antonelli will love that stat. The reason that he'll love that stat, both of those winners, first-time winners. And if he becomes the third, would be the same thing as well. Took a sprint pole. And his first run, quicker than George Russell on the medium tyre as he makes his way through Massenet. This is Casino, and we make our way down to Mirabeau Corner, where all the action started earlier on, to the hairpin. Originally the station hairpin, because that hotel was the station. Then they moved it, and he's backed out. There we go. So the history lesson can continue, but at slower speed. We go through Portier Corner. Told you that Ayrton Senna made that famous. They've reclaimed a bit of land from the sea to build some more apartments. Because the one thing Monaco was lacking was apartments. And this is over the bump on the way down to Mirabeau, and in a few moments' time, and he's going to bail out of it. Oh, I didn't see that from the overhead angle. Didn't be able to catch it.
So he washed just fractionally wide at the apex, just understeered a little bit, and that took him wide on the exit, where he then had a lot more steering to do to get round that the jutting bit of Armco just there that really catches you out as you need to sort of straight line it. That's what caught Charles Leclerc / Lance Stroll out earlier on in their incident. Antonelli with too much steering to do. Traction is difficult around this place as well. Soft tyres help, but as soon as you've got a steering lock and you're trying to lay down 1,000 horsepower, it's not an easy thing to manage.
Incident involving Oliver Bearman has been noted for the red flag infringement. I don't know if I can remember off the top of my head what that would have been for.
That could be any number of things, couldn't it? Be going too quick under a red flag conditions.
Yep.
You have a delta that you need to abide by. You could have overtaken under red flag conditions. I didn't see it, but it's something for Haas to look into. Again, red flag infringements, and if it's a bad one, can be a back of the grid start. Even it's very serious.
Okay, different programs going on right now. Fernando Alonso's just gone top on the soft tyre, and he didn't leave much on the exit of the second part of the swimming pool. Charles Leclerc continuing on the white-walled hard tyre, and he goes over the line with the fastest final sector of anyone so far. For a man who was downright unhappy with the handling of his Ferrari, considering that they weren't expecting this car to be good at low speed, it's pretty effective on a hard tyre for Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton on a medium has the fastest first sector of anyone, sector 1, sector 2. You've got Lando Norris out there on a medium in exactly the same time, and the three-time winner, the Monaco Grand Prix, is top.
I think he's still got quite a lot of margin as well to the barriers for Hamilton. He, of course, had the big hit into the barriers and the launch as well at the second part of the swimming pool, which is one of the last things he did in FP1. So just making sure he doesn't do that on this first run of FP2. He's quick, but it looked like he just had a little more margin than some of the others. The experience telling Lewis that you can lean on it, but wait till you're really on the quali sim before you start attacking for the last little bits.
Charles Leclerc reporting there's some debris in the braking zone of turn 10, which is where Isaac Hadjar clipped the barrier earlier on. Had to look at the track map there. Turn 10, we've been doing the corner names all the way through. Drivers, of course, keep it to the numbers. This is Pierre Gasly with a shiny new set of soft Pirelli tyres. And he's going to find himself trying to get past the Aston.
Aston in front almost put me in the wall.
Okay.
Oh my word.
That's the biggest get on with it of the season so far, isn't it?
It's up there. It's up there. Not having that.
Carlos Sainz finding himself in close proximity with Lewis Hamilton. Lance Stroll, as you've seen, team have repaired things. He's gone out there on the soft tyre, having to sit out FP1, vital for Stroll and his weekend. So we've got this two-stop strategy rule for this Grand Prix, which is going to mean that if you're at the very lower end, you're going to be rolling the dice as we go through Casino Square. Lovely angle of how high the speed is.
Was that Aston in front almost put me in the wall?
Copy.
Surprised that they were quick in Imola, but if you consider that they have already passed their 2023 and 2024 combined points total, and we're only at round 8, Williams 5th place in the Constructors, scoring in the last 3 races with both cars 51 points, and a team on the up.
It'll take some catching for teams further back to get on top of that. There's enough races that a good run of results for Haas, Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, they can do it, but it's a big haul of points they've scored. Albon has been banking most of them. He's had such an amazing run at the start of this year. Sainz has been a bit unlucky in the last couple of races. Was very unlucky not to do better in Imola. was probably actually the stronger Williams driver, but just didn't get the rub of the green on strategy. And Miami as well, it didn't fall Sainz's way. There was a little touch between the two Williams. There was a sort of team orders contention between the two Williams as well. Someone's not getting their delivery, are they, later? Lost in the post, I think that's what that goes down as.
Sorry you weren't in, we missed you, but Charles Leclerc did not. Esteban Ocon currently in 20th position and finding himself caught by the Red Bull.
What is he doing?
And he was not delighted with the placement. Everyone's been a tad grumpy, haven't they, out there with cars impeding them so far. And further round the lap, rush of the barrier. And that was Ocon as well. That was Ocon, not Behrman.
Yeah, ever closer, ever closer.
What is he doing?
Coming into the fast corners, Gasly jumps out of the way. Leclerc's putting the sectors together.
Going very nicely over the curve, not much margin. Charles Leclerc, a master of extracting one lap pace here. Final corner of the racetrack on his biggest day in motor racing a year ago, but seems a long time ago as he goes to the top, and he goes to the top by 0.4 of a second. Let's get another vantage point and throw to Ruth, who's got a view of Lando Norris.
Oh, I've had a good view of everything down here. Now, we talk a lot about track evolution. Monaco is one of the only places in the world that you can actually see it. I'm here in the pit lane with a view of this famous swimming pool chicane, and Heath will give you a lovely view as we see cars coming through of that racing line beginning to form as the rubber is physically laid down. Now, drivers want to take as much of that red curve that is turning black as possible. They'll go faster. We've just seen Charles Leclerc take a lot of that curve. You can see Lewis taking it right now. It's staying settled. That shows that the car has got great mechanical properties. You can see some of the cars like the Haas bouncing a lot more. Now, what Heath is also going to show you is this DJ deck. Now, it's one of the only places in the world where how good the party is makes the track worse, because this will be opened up. There will be people having a lot of fun today, and the more champagne that gets spilled on that bit of racetrack, the dirtier the track is and the slower the track will be. Even though they clean it up, it will wash away all of that rubber as they do so, which means the drivers, they don't start from zero, but they start from close to zero in this part, and it's one of the most critical areas for performance. You have to get it right. You have to get as close as you can to that barrier. You have to ride as much of that curve as possible without touching that yellow at all. Very, very interesting. Always want to check as a strategist how good the party is, because you'll be able to estimate how good the track is the next day.
I love it. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, underneath the pit lane there are multiple restaurants and clubs, and you spill straight out onto the circuit, and the barriers come along, and that affects the surface of the circuit. Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso. Thank you to Ruth. Thank you to Heath, our MVP of the day so far. One of our very fine camera operators on F1 TV, helping Ruth tell the story down there in the pit lane. And Oliver Behrman, personal best sector 1, ordinary sector 2, even when it's not going to plan. Oh, there we go, into the Armco.
It looked lively before, and then he touched the wall.
So that's both Hasses at exactly the same part of the circuit. Here's Lance Stroll in the way at the end. Oliver Behrman has had a hairy couple of corners.
He's gotten away with it as well. Same with Ocon, they're both brushing up to that wall. Oh, he looked like he was sliding coming through the swimming pool, which is just incredible, really, to be hanging on to it. That's this part coming up now with Charles Leclerc. This flash looks really under control for Leclerc. Can he put together a final sector? That's where Behrman clipped the barrier there, or ran up against it. Raskas, Leclerc's got a good front end. He's got a car just ahead of him. I don't think he's going to catch it, which is good news for him up to the curve. Oh, it's just breathtaking to watch these guys.
He is flying. If you consider last Grand Prix, no Ferrari in the top 10. First time in Imola F1 history that was the case. Charles Leclerc absolutely switched on, like for like, with Lando Norris. It's 0.4 of a second.
Verstappen on a soft as well, so Norris is getting nowhere near Leclerc. Verstappen's getting not even to Norris, let alone Leclerc. Max has had a fair crack on those softs as well. He's been through the pits as he did earlier on for a setup change. It's not coming to it.
You predict a Charles Leclerc podium in weekend warm-up yesterday?
I was singing Ferrari's praises.
You were?
I was singing their hope for the weekend, at least, anyway. And I've just been surprised with how they're obviously coming from a weekend where they've been on home soil in Imola. It's not gone at all to plan when they qualified 11th and 12th, and they're feeling like they've got the tail between their legs.
There's the push.
Yeah, the lower shot made it look like more of a swipe. It was a nudge. It was nice. He got away with it.
Track signage will be down there. That advertising hoarding needs replacing.
Yeah, it won't just be there either. There's going to be plenty of work for them to do tonight. Yeah, I still think Leclerc around this place is just brilliant. It's one of those ones, there's certain circuits, certain drivers thrive. This is a driver's circuit, absolutely blatantly. I mean, it's an incredible journey around this track. Drivers can make such a big difference, and I think Leclerc does around here. And the Ferrari at low speed right now, it doesn't look bad. It's Friday. They're not going to get carried away, nor am I. But I think they're in with a shot from what we're seeing, at the very least.
We did see in previous years certain drivers turn up to Monaco and just be able, no matter what sort of season they were having, they would always be in contention. It's Alex Albon not having the end to the lap that he wanted. It goes again.
Hamilton's on a soft tyre now. We pick him up for the second half of the lap. Comes through and he's done a personal best in the middle. So let's see Lewis coming through the end of the lap, right up to that inside barrier. A little bit more margin to the outside wall there. Is it running wide? He's deep on the brakes. Raskas carrying good entry speed. Maybe missing a bit coming out. He'll drive to the line.
And he moves up to third.
It doesn't quite look as zippy, does it? Leclerc just seems like he's got maybe a bit more front end and maybe a bit more confidence to throw the car into the corners, be aggressive with it, have it moving around that little bit more. Hamilton's third is half a second away from his teammate, and the attitude of the two cars just looked a little bit different on that half a lap.
So Max Verstappen going again, personal best in the first sector, and now he rotates the car through the corner where Isaac Hadjar clipped it earlier on, through to back, which you can't believe the speed they take through to back when you watch it trackside. It's kicking up dust that very few other drivers have as well on the exit of the corner. That was right to the barrier. So this is going to be a personal best for Max Verstappen. But what sort of weekend is it going to be for the reigning world champion? Is it going to be just you cannot get close enough to contend, or can he get within that 0.2 of a second that gives him hope? 0.7 of a second behind Alex Albon in the Williams.
Yeah, not for lack of trying. Lively out there, right up to the barriers, but just not giving him the pace at the moment. Not able to get the car rotated back on the gas. Russell then, soft tyres for him in the Mercedes. At the moment down in 12th with the field fairly close around here. See him through the second part of this lap. Cutting around to all sorts of dramatic shots.
Not sure we've seen that again. George is getting the full director's cut as we make our way through the final corner. His best result in F1 around here, 5th place. That's what he's managed. He's chasing his first podium in the World Championship around here. 7th, where he finished the last Grand Prix. Right, everyone else appears to be driving practice. Every time we go on board with Charles Leclerc, it feels like qualifying.
So let's go again, front to back, through to the end of the lap. Early on the brakes, but very quickly to the throttle as well. Out closer to the wall than we've seen through this first part of the swimming pool. The front end is good into Raskas. He's getting right to that second apex. Oh, struggling slightly for traction maybe this time coming out of that final corner. Did he have to blend out of it? I don't know, it was pretty quick either way.
There we go. Top 2 times in the session then for Charles Leclerc. That one just 100th back on what he managed earlier on, but he is looking alive behind the wheel of that car. The car responding in a way that it just hasn't for him so far.
No one is doing 10-10. It's so distracting. Why they miss the corner? Why is you allowed to? I mean.
So Fernando Alonso, have we spliced 2 pieces of action together there? Maybe a team radio from earlier on, and then Fernando going deep on the way in to the Nouvelle chicane that begins with turn 10.
Yeah, someone obviously on a slow lap choosing to not go around the corners, not to try and get out the way of anyone, but I wonder if maybe some people are just deliberately driving off track on slow laps just to give the tyres an easier time to make sure.
No one is doing 10-10. It's so distracting. Why they missed the corner? Why is you allowed to? I mean.
Obviously didn't take the lights in Melbourne, so a good start to his time in the championship as we check back in with Lando Norris.
Is Lawson back in the Red Bull? Third. He's got third.
Yeah, Liam Lawson in third position at a track where he's been competitive in the junior championships. Had a great battle with Oscar Piastri here a few years ago. George Russell going again. That's a mighty lap for Liam Lawson, and encouragement for the New Zealander, who's been through the ringer a bit at the start of this campaign. Just trying to rediscover a rhythm and work his way back to the top 10, which is the aim.
Russell was all out of sorts with oversteer at the in Portier. Lawson has done an absolute flyer in the Racing Bulls car. Now this car has been working well at low speed for years now, this team, and this car this year has been good as well.
Yeah, mate, these guys. Lewis, I don't know.
Yeah, traffic paradise there.
Hey, Team Faenza playing the classics. Traffic paradise started by Yuki Tsunoda, remembered by all. This is Charlotte Leclerc. How close was he to the wall? Super close to that wall. Oh my word. 4 centimetres. Look closer.
Yeah, mate, these guys. Lewis, I don't know.
Yeah, traffic paradise there.
Is looking at a very, very smug Sunday. if this form continues.
I wasn't brave enough to go Ferrari win, I have to say, but I went for the podium.
Here's the form that the press conference took yesterday. One of the early questions was, Charles, do you think you're going to have a good weekend? His answer was no, not on the evidence of this year. Then every question was like, oh, but hold on, Charles. Driver can make the difference more in Monaco. And he's like, yeah, I guess so, but like equally, you're not seeing the data I'm seeing. One day on, 1-2. Formula 1, eh?
The whole team were just downbeat about it. They were all downbeat.
So what does Andrea Stella know that Ferrari didn't? Because he was very, very clear. Sam was telling us earlier on, he was very, very clear. He thought Ferrari were going to be the key threat. And they're having a very good Friday. The one thing we have seen across the course of this year, how you progress your weekend, Friday into Saturday, Red Bull are masters at that. Given the gap on the timing page, they're going to have to be again.
And the fact that Tsunoda is matching Verstappen on pace, it tells me that there's more in there for Max. Not to be disrespectful to Yuki, but he's not been near Max in qualifying yet.
Yeah, and the evidence of earlier, the gap was over a second.
Yeah, so it's much better for Tsunoda to be up in the top 10, but I think Max has got more in the tank. Has Oscar got more in the tank then? He's taken that fastest middle sector away from Charles.
Oh, Oscar Piastri snaking all over the road. Thought that was going to be his second barrier hit of the session. He's 0.3 of a second away, but it wasn't chilled like the man behind the wheel in the last couple of corners.
Not many good Monaco laps are chilled, I tell you that. It's not the sort of one where smooth is necessarily the fastest way. It's all about a hustle around this circuit, which is why it's just breathtaking to watch all these laps come in. Piastri's then building up to it. He's also been through the pit, so he's made a change to the setup on the soft tyres, and that was another attempt then, another first flyer on a second run. He's done plenty of laps, 11 laps on the softs in total. and he's getting there. So I think I'm expecting Verstappen to get much closer. I'm expecting McLaren to find something as well, and that's an indication that there's more in there. When if you put on another set of soft tyres, would find it. Of course, the track's getting better as well as we're going.
Well, Oscar Piastri had a really good middle sector of the lap, but it's his teammate Lando Norris who's found it difficult to get that McLaren to be compliant consistently on the edge all season long. And Oscar finding the same.
It goes again.
DRS.
It goes again as he's opened the DRS. So he's had the first moment, which was a not insignificant moment, and then he's turned it around the corner, not hit the wall. Open the DRS, and the rear's still jumping out at him. He must have kept his foot buried because the DRS didn't shut there either, so he's just controlled it. And it's absolutely on the limit there for Piastri. The tyres are probably, I'm sure they're past their best now on that McLaren, and the fact that he still dug out the time, yes, there's a bit of track evolution, maybe negates the tyres going away, but I'm sure that there's more in there for him.
12 minutes to go. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have across the course of the day. Drivers on the limit around the circuit that dares them closer and closer to the wall. Max Verstappen having a check of where he is on the circuit. He's got the medium tyre on now, so he's in the data gathering phase of things as he sends it into the Sandoval corner. And Isaac Hadjar, look at that for a top six. Leclerc, Hamilton, Piastri, Norris, Lawson, Hadjar, Ferrari, McLaren, Racing Bull. Would have been the order predicted by precisely no one, I think, at the start of the action today.
So we've still got 7 different cars in the top 10. We've got Verstappen in 10th, and Racing Bull is 5th and 6th. Aston Martin, Alonso's not scored a point this year, up in 7th as well, having a quietly decent day. Piastri's going again.
Well, this is all action stuff from Oscar Piastri. He's absolutely ragging the McLaren around the 19 corners and getting a tune out of it. Improving on old soft tyres. Are we beginning to see a little bit more of the true picture at the end there? 300ths away from Charles Leclerc as he pushes on, and Isaac Hadjar's entertaining day is going to have another clip for the highlight reel. He's quick, but he's got a little bit of hoarding wrapped around his front left.
So he must have brushed up against the wall and has just taken something clean off. More for the hoarding group to do tonight. I'm sure they need to first of all figure out where it's come from.
Yeah, they book a late dinner. Is that car yawing? He's got damage, hasn't he? Yeah, he's got damage. He's got suspension damage.
Yeah, oh, it's left rear actually. There's not right. So he might have done the same thing again, you know, where it was the left rear early on. It's crabbing. You can see it there really badly. So he's steering right to the right because that left rear, I think, is pointing at an angle. And he's going to get that one back, but he won't be going anywhere when he does.
Man, I am so stupid. I think I'm just dumb.
The rookie trying to be quick in Formula One, Isaac. I mean, I know expectations are high, but equally trying to get up to speed around here with no margin for error. It's his second impact of the session as his teammate goes by, but you only get 3 practice sessions before it becomes weekend defining in the Monaco Grand Prix, and the rookie driver not giving himself any leeway at all, expecting high standards. But the man born in Paris is back to...
Man, I am so stupid. I think I'm just dumb.
And he's found the barriers. Maybe that's why he's not too proud of himself for that one. We'll wait and see a replay. We'll get it now. It's the first corner, is it? So he backs up.
He's finished, yeah, he's finished the lap. Oh, Isaac Hadjar. The rear steps out. All the hard work completed. P6 on the board. And that is hitting the Armco rather than the Tech Pro flush like we saw earlier, and that's broken the back of the car.
Too close to the wall.
We're not contractually obliged to say it. We've just apparently got in a habit of reading out the graphic, and that is the damage that told the story. He has, again, made it back, so they can immediately get on with the repair job.
But that's going to be rear suspension damage, I think, for Hadjar there. That was him clouting that on the angle, and I think he'd backed off. I don't think he was pushing again. I think he had backed off and simply had a lapse in concentration. There was arrows as he was coming across the line saying there's someone coming out of the pits. Was he looking down at his lap time? I'm not sure, but he looked like he'd backed off it. Sounded like he'd backed off it, but still just didn't hit the brakes hard enough, didn't slow the car down, turned in, and then suddenly realised that the corner's coming up quick and he's carrying too much speed. I think that's why he was saying that he was a bit stupid.
Tally's in, so it was a lap after all the hard work had been completed. Franco Colapinto out there, 2 seconds off the pace. Driver just trying to get back up to speed in Formula One generally. Made his 10th start in Formula One in Imola, his first of the season, and now has to ratchet up the performance for Monaco. Doesn't get any easier.
Well, I'm just thinking it really didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we've spoken about the Do and Colapinto swap.
There's a Red Bull down there in the first turn. It's Max.
The cars are going in reverse.
I was going to ask you earlier, how hard is it to find reverse gear in a Formula One car?
He's got it, so he has found it. So reverse gear is a very small gear that you very rarely need, and technically there's a procedure for it. It's quite easy. You go into neutral, you can only access it from neutral, so you can't accidentally put yourself into reverse at any other time. And then for me, it was hold down the downshift, and after a few seconds it will take reverse. It's on purpose pretty difficult to find, because it would be a bad one to accidentally have. And Max has eventually managed to pick that out, but sometimes the car...
The cars are going in reverse.
That won't cost him too much. So yeah, Alpine, we've spoken about the Do and Colapinto swap, but when this is your second race, I don't think Franco's helped himself by having the qualifying crash in Imola, because that's a bit of a confidence sapper, especially on the back of some crashes at the end of last year. Then you come to Monaco, tough one. And we've seen so many drivers. We've seen Hamilton almost hit the barriers early on, have a massive launch. We've seen Piastri hit the barriers a couple of times, actually, one of which was a solid hit at Saint-Denis. You know, the top drivers are having incidents. It's so easy to crash it. I mean, I really can't overstate how difficult just driving this circuit near the paces, let alone trying to push for the last 10th or two. So for Colapinto, this being his second race, having already had the crash at Imola, he really doesn't need to be having another crash here to count against him when he needs to prove everything. And I think that's why we're seeing him just off the pace. It's a kind of an impossible challenge that he's got here.
Franco Colapinto's first visit to Monaco in Formula One. He made his debut with the Williams team last year, but that began in Monza in the second half of the season. And Monaco means that the teams have to run in specific settings. And Sam Collins is going to show us a comparison of one of those settings around the Monaco circuit. Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I've just found something quite interesting on Max Verstappen's car. We just saw him outbrake himself. What I want to show you is the front brake duct here. This is the specification that Max is running today. You can see it's quite big. It's got these extra elements in the middle. It's got all of these segments down here that are quite interesting. But what I want to show you is compare that to last year's front brake setup, which is quite different. Max Verstappen's car isn't that different in terms of configuration, but have a look here. Much tighter, extra element down here, but a lot less front brake cooling. This is the outlet, of course. Now, when I compare that shot to this shot, which is the exact same car, but a year later, look how much bigger the front brakes are on Verstappen's car. It's still segments down here, but a totally different shape, totally revised. It's a bit of a strange setup, I think, and I'm not entirely sure what Red Bull has discovered compared to other teams. But when you see how much more complex this is, it's a big departure for the Red Bull team to change their front brake setup this much. There's something different going on there. Red Bull are doing something interesting with their front brakes because it's the same circuit, same driver, and same car concept. Why are those front brakes so much bigger? They found something in the wind tunnel. It's not just about brake cooling. I just don't entirely know what it is, but it's fascinating and one to keep an eye on. Certainly isn't helping him slow down the car a little bit too much, though, is it?
Thank you, Sam. Sam poring over all of the images across the course of a Formula One weekend to give us the insight like that, to be able to show us the different approaches being taken. The teams strive for the most efficient package possible to try and win the race that everyone wants, the Monaco Grand Prix. First run in 1929, before the World Championship had even begun. So 3 minutes to go. The order on the left-hand side is going to remain the same unless someone fancies a late glory run, but they're in the data gathering part of FP2 now. And we've shown you plenty out there on the circuit. We've had Alex Brundle around the 19 corners trackside. We've had Ruth Buskin with her first ever trip to the Monaco Grand Prix pit lane. Normally be working above in the garages. A slightly different setup for team personnel here. We've also had Sam Collins taking you through the details most recently with the Red Bull. That is you can walk around the perimeter of this circuit, but that is a part of the racetrack where it isn't wide at all. The marshals, and Jolene already touched on how good the marshals are around here. They take so much pride in clearing up the cars as quickly as possible. There are some corners where the crane is in position. Saint-Devote, they've got one ready to go in case anyone sticks it in the barrier. Oscar Piastri did earlier on, but went in square, lost the front wing, but was able to continue in the session. Isaac Hadjar was able to escape his first brush with the wall at the Nouvelle chicane, second one after the lap was posted. He wasn't even pushing on, just the rear end stepping out, and unfortunately that's meant another repair job down at Racing Bulls. The Red Bull, they find themselves 10th and 11th. Max Verstappen saying that the team don't make it easy for themselves, but they know that they are strong at finding improvement from Friday into Saturday. They also know that the circuits they've been impressive at this year, where they've taken their wins, the high-speed Imola, the high-speed Suzuka, and this is the slowest average speed of the year around a circuit that Max Verstappen has won twice at in his Formula One career. So we go on board with the reigning Formula 2 champion, Gabriel Bortoleto, pressing that barrier back. They all get invited to do that. If you get too greedy, you get spat out. You can do damage like we saw with Max Verstappen many years ago now in third practice. Open the door for Daniel Ricciardo to claim his Monaco win. After the heartbreak of 2016, when the timing of the pit stop and the logistics of this place that year was the defining factor. The right tyres were too far back. This is an incredible race from a logistical point of view. The team's having to work in very narrow confines. As we check in with Max Verstappen, completing his day. Just 30 seconds of the session left. And we're riding on board with the man who is heading to the Nouvelle chicane. Max Verstappen has been on this tyre for 9 laps now in the long run part. We'll get all the long run times later on. That is where we found out last week that Ferrari, whilst one lap pace was downright horrible, their race pace was actually good. And the only so Max Verstappen set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix last time out, but the second fastest was Lewis Hamilton. So Ferrari really did have excellent race pace last time out, but they were expecting to struggle with the slow stuff. Not the case. As the checkered flag flies, it's Charles Leclerc who has posted the fastest time, driver chasing his 4th Formula One pole position tomorrow around the Monaco streets. And it would be his 27th for Ferrari. Only Michael Schumacher has more. And you can have a look at the average time out there. And it's happy viewing for Charles Leclerc, for Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen looking better on a long run, and McLaren finding themselves not quite where they want to be, not where they've become accustomed to be, which is always really in the top 3 or challenging for the top 3 this year. Both McLaren drivers have 6 podiums out of 7 races, and that has been a thoroughly enjoyable practice Friday at the Monaco Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton completing things. So Fernando Alonso was really irritated all the way through that session, and everyone tripping over each other. Had to be told by his race engineer to worry about it later, but it does show you that in comparison to previous years, really does feel like there was a lot of incidents when it comes to tripping over each other, and we've certainly seen plenty of action out on track today. You can see that Kimi Antonelli finds himself in 9th position. Isaac Hadjar has a great time as well out there. So does Liam Lawson. So plenty of rookies in the field already this year, but there's plenty of drivers getting used to driving around the 19 turns of Monaco in Formula One machinery. And Liam Lawson, having proven himself behind the wheel of a Formula 2 car on these streets, finds himself with a really strong session with P5 on the board. His teammate P6, but with a couple of taps of the wall. And now we're into the practice start phase of things. At the very end of the day, George Russell down in P12, slightly out of character for his super consistent season, always finishing in the top 10 this year, only once finishing outside the top 5. And there's Jack Doohan watching on. Driver who was attending as reserve in Imola, having been in the race seat, of course, for the opening races of the year. And he doesn't live too far away from where he's watching at the moment, but at the moment he is just spectating. Franco Colapinto, a reminder for you, the team giving the information that he's in that car for 5 races. Little bit of debate about whether that was the case going forward, but that's what the team said. Either way, at the moment, Jack Doohan can only watch on. But it has been a day to revel in watching trackside, and wonderful pictures. Never take that for granted around the Monaco Grand Prix, showing you more of it than we ever have. Okay, let's do the 20 drivers in the order that they had their fastest time. Charles Leclerc with a 1:11.355, finding himself fastest in practice 1, in practice 2. He had a gap over Oscar Piastri of 0.03 of a second. Lewis Hamilton making it a very good day for Ferrari in 3rd position. Then it's Norris ahead of Liam Lawson, shot in the arm for his season. He brought his teammate as well. Hadjar clipping the barrier on a couple of occasions. Then it was Alonso, Albon, Antonelli, and Max Verstappen rounds out the top 10. Very similar pace to his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, who was P11. And then it was Russell in 12th position ahead of Sainz, Bortoleto, and then Behrman, Hulkenberg, Gasly. Stroll at least got a full session after his one-place grid penalty collision earlier on. And the final 2, Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto. And my thanks to Ruth, to Alex, to Sam, and to Jolyon. And we can hear from some of those names that I've just mentioned, because they are standing next to Laura Winter down Harbourside. Where? I do not know. Let's find out together.
Excellent throw, Jakesy. That's some of your best work, mate. Loving that. I can tell you, we're down by the harbour in front of the Red Bull Energy Station. And if you're in doubt, this is one of the best vantage points, so we're probably around here. Ruth's fresh from the pit lane. What an experience you've had today. And Jolyon Palmer fresh from the commentary box as well. Jolyon, Charles Leclerc, quickest, once again. Can we now tell the Tifosi it's on? Do we dare to dream for Ferrari?
I do. I did yesterday, so it probably doesn't count for too much. But I think they're the story that I've been most disappointed with so far this year. And I'm most wanting Ferrari to join the party out front.